while photographing the way I do, but with my colors, this will change everything.
I got to see each frame, each position of its wing, and they are so beautiful that I have never seen before.
Being able to move quickly and working at my brain's pace and getting those shots in the moment. Having this camera allows you to go out and create the way you want to create.
Until you use it, you cannot even imagine what you have missed.
It's something I've never seen before in my entire life. It's something totally different.
Nikon Z6 III. Outperform.
Introducing ISO Color Edge. Precision is essential for any professional working with images. Whether you're an artist, a retoucher, or a visual effects specialist, you need to know that what you see at the start of a project is precisely what you'll get at the end. Color Edge monitors give consistent, reliable accuracy that guarantee no surprises within your color workflow. So what you see in real life is what you see on screen, and what you see on screen is what you see in real life. That's precisely why professionals all over the world trust ISO Color Edge for their image creation. ISO Color Edge. Discover living, breathing color.
Good morning. Welcome to the judging of the 7th category in the 2025 Australian Photographic Prize. We're at the nature category. Wherever you're tuning in from around the globe, we're glad to have you with us as we spotlight the very finest in nature photography. My name is Robin Campbell, and I'm the founding director of the Australian Photographic Prize. I'm here today on behalf of our 2025 competition director, Daniel Bingham, who has worked incredibly hard to bring this year's awards together. I'd also like to acknowledge the tireless work of our judging director, Chris Anderson, who has assembled a stellar international judging panel for this event. Special thanks also to Nathan Bingham, who's keeping the live stream running smoothly, and to Helen Bingham, our ever-reliable scribe. Couldn't do it without you. In Australia, we open events like this with an acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this event is hosted today, the Wurundjeri Wurrung Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to any First Nations people joining today. So this event would not be possible without incredible prizes which have come from our sponsors. A huge thank you to our major sponsor, Nikon Australia, who have generously given over $5,000 in Nikon gear. How good is that? Special shout out to Julie, Kylie, and the entire Nikon team. Thank you so much for your support. Also, thank you to our wonderful division sponsors, AZO, who are supporting the 2025 Creative Photographer of the Year with a monitor valued at over $2,500. KL and Godox for sponsoring our Classic division, and Ilford for their backing of the single capture category. Thank you also to Photography Studies College. You are offering a $1,500 scholarship to our High School Photographer of the Year. So great to be supporting the next generation of photographers. And to Print Shop. We really appreciate your contribution of a consultation and 2 A1 prints valued at $500. Please take a moment to visit their websites, tag them in your posts, and show them some love. Their support is truly valued by the photographic community. So, this is how this morning will run. Each finalist image will be assessed by our expert panel with real live commentary, insights, and the occasional challenge. Scores will be displayed on the screen as we go. Once all the images have been judged, our panel will deliberate offline to determine the top 3 place getters from the 5 highest scoring images. First, second, and third will be revealed at our live awards presentation next Sunday, July the 20th, so make sure you're there. First of all, though, before we get into the judging, we're going to take a moment to run through the top 32 nature finalists. Over to you, Nathan. Introduce our panel mentor, the one and only Tony Hewitt. Tony is a multi-award winning photographer with national and international acclaim, as well as a brilliant presenter, mentor, and educator. We're so honoured to have him guiding today's judging panel. Over to you, Tony.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you again to the team behind the scenes. I hope you all quietly at home give a little round of applause for the incredible team that's brought this to you. It's my pleasure to be panel mentoring the nature category, and just to let you know that this comes from the single capture division where the rules are very tight, post-production is quite limited, and this division celebrates truly authentic photography. The nature category itself is a single capture category that celebrates the beauty of natural elements found in the outdoors. It may include minor man-made elements, and colour adjustments must appear natural. There are a few more things to that. You're welcome to look them up. Now, one of the other privileges that I have is to work with such an elite panel of judges, and you'll be able to see all their faces over the next couple of hours. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is just give you an idea of what's behind each of these people. Ari Rex is one of Australia's most recognisable names in astrophotography, and he's back to join the Australian Photographic Prize judging pool. Known for his striking nightscapes and long exposure work, might do some explosions, I don't know. He's both technically refined in his work and creates visually powerful images. Master of Photography with the AIPP and an associate with the NZIPP. We are actually thrilled to have him back, bringing both his technical precision and creative insight to this year's team. Chris Saunders is a Perth-based landscape photographer who has a wonderful gift of transforming natural scenes into abstract painterly works of art. Often captured from the air, he explores light, texture and form in ways that reveal new beauty in familiar places. Master of Distinction with the NZIPP, Chris has also been named the Australian Photographer of the Year 3 times, once with the AIPP and twice with the NZIPP National Awards. Chris brings a calm, considered presence to any panel that he joins, and it's a pleasure to have him working and bringing along his deep appreciation for visual balance, technical control and emotional tone in the landscape world. Christopher Ian from Victoria has a remarkable portfolio across several genres, including portraiture, landscape, scientific, family, documentary, and travel. He holds a Master Photographer of the AIPP and was a past AIPP Portrait Photographer of the Year. He's also picked up 2 silver medals at the World Photographic Cup. Decades of practice is behind the judging that he is going to bring, and he brings that same depth into his photography, and we're proud to have him back as part of the team. Joe Howell, another Victorian-based photographer, is a specialist in pet and wildlife photography. Whether they're 4 legs, 2 legs, wings, or hundreds of legs, she does it all. Her work is full of heart and humour, as you'll see when she speaks, because she's always speaking with a smile, and she clearly has a love for the creatures she photographs. A double master with the NZIPP and a master of photography with the ARPP, and winner of the 2024 SWPP Pet Photographer of the Year. She's somebody with a sharp eye, a warm laugh, and she may even have some bits of fur on her clothes if we get a close enough look when she's talking to us. Matt Palmer from the Victorian Alpine region is an award-winning photographer in many ways. His deep love for the natural world and his images often aim to tell a story or capture a powerful sense of place. Has many accolades to his name, including the recent NZIPP Australian Travel Photographer of the Year, and is a master with both AIPP and NZIPP. He brings to the judging panel a fantastic attitude in the way that his eye for authenticity, atmosphere, and storytelling. What am I trying to say? Matt is somebody that when you watch his judging, you realise that he has an incredible eye for detail. Not much gets past him, and he certainly is first to congratulate excellence in the images that he looks at. Rachel Smith, all the way from New Zealand, and I believe is the current NZIPP National President, is somebody who specialises in visual storytelling, print and education. She has a Master of Fine Arts and brings a balance of technical understanding and creative empathy to her critiquing. Her work blends concept and craft and often explores the tension between memory and environment. She's also a Master of the NZIPP and a Master in Printing as a certified printer as well. She brings a thoughtful eye and has a reputation, well, not just a reputation, she is a very warm, insightful person with her feedback. It's interesting, reading all of these things, because you look at all the words and all of that. And I've got to tell you that with all the paperwork I've got here on each of these people, it doesn't sum up the amount of technical excellence, the warmth and compassion and the passion that they have for the photography that they produce and the photography that they get the opportunity to judge. And I know that they are all honoured to be here with me today to look at your work. So with that having been said, and having introduced this incredible panel of people to you, let's get into the nature category for the Australian Photographic Prize. But before we do, I've just had a little wave from Melanie, who I must have skipped. Sorry, Melanie. Of course, as is always the custom, you save the best for last. No, not joking. Everybody's equal. Melanie is from Sydney and captures portraits, weddings. You know what it is, Mel? I think what it is I've introduced you on every panel I've had so far, so I feel like I've already spoken about you. Weddings, events, commercial, a very broad range of photography is what Melanie gets into. She brings a technical precision combined with a warm and approachable style. She has been recognised at the Siena Creative Awards and has also earned multiple state and national awards for her illustrative, landscape, travel and commercial work, documentary work. And one thing about Melanie that you're going to find as you listen to her judging is that not only has she got a broad photographic background to follow up or to back those comments that she makes, but she has a genuine passion for thoughtful, impactful image making. Sorry, Mel. You might have been forgotten in word, but I could see you smiling, and I honestly thought I'd already done it. Okay, with that having been said, the next couple of hours we're going to be absolutely blessed to see some incredible images, and what you will find is that often it's the images that miss out that tell you just how good the finalists are. So congratulations to all the images that made it to the final round, and the judges are itching to have a look. Let's get into it. Let's have a look at the first image for the nature category. And while they're having a look at this image, I'll let you know that our opening panel of 5, we have 7 judges to draw from, and they will rotate through the panel. We're starting with Christopher Ian, Joe Howell, Matt Palmer, Melanie Burt, and Rachel Smith. This image was taken early one morning while it was still foggy. It is a small fly dangling from a spider web and looks like a fairy. This image scores a silver with distinction with a score of 85. All judges reasonably close to that mark, so I think we'll accept that score. And I'll take a comment from Melanie Burt. Mel, if you'd like to maybe pass on some info or some thoughts for the photographer.
Oh, this is a beautiful presentation of this flyer, but it doesn't really matter what it is. It's almost like an aerialist in a beautiful, delicate dance. And I just wanted to congratulate the photographer.
Thanks, Mel. We'll have the next image, please. There is a context statement to this one. Chinese chinstrap penguins are abundant throughout Antarctica. They use icy platforms to avoid predators. Bright krill covers the blue ice where the colony previously resided. Image scores 83, silver award. Congratulations to the photographer. I might grab a quick comment if I can from Matt Palmer.
Yeah, I think what really works in this image is the sense of scale. We get contrast between the color that's coming from the unfortunate bodily fluids of the penguins, but visually it creates color contrast as well. And then finally, the little gesture of the penguin is almost as telling its two mates to go into the water first so it can wait behind. So I think that works really well.
Could be leopard seals. Okay, let's have the next image, please. Context statement. The Morton tornado, a 2.2 mile wide wedge tornado that travelled 10 miles from Cochrane to Morton, Texas on 5th June 2025 at 125 miles per hour. This image scores 82, silver award. Congratulations to the photographer. And I'll get a quick comment from Christopher Ian. Thanks, Christopher.
The real winner here is the mood that's created by the lighting. Most tornado shots we see are in extreme weather of storm and tempest. Here we've got a brightly lit foreground that's just leading us towards the storm. And it's a very unusual tornado because we don't actually see the spout as clearly as we should.
Thank you, Christopher. Next image, please. This image scores 84 and is a silver award, and that's an 84 by majority. But we do have two judges in the 90s, and they have the opportunity to challenge it, which is what they've done. Rachel Smith, you're a 92, so I'll take your challenge. Thank you, Rachel.
Cool, thanks, Tony. I think this is quite beautifully put together, and gives a good sense of an environment in flood. I'm struggling with my words, oh my goodness. I think what I'm really enjoying is the very fine detail, and the birds roosting, particularly in that top left-hand tree, when they could have left their environment. They could have gone somewhere else because they can fly, but instead they're sort of persisting. And just these little hints of life persisting through quite dramatic natural events. And yeah, I thought it was beautifully handled, beautiful tones, and I've given it a 92. I'd love for it to come up into gold.
Thank you, Rachel. Matt, you're on 81.
Yeah, I gave it a silver for much of the same reasons. I thought it was quite delicate. It's almost like a little visual language that's been created through the coloration and position of the trees. I think I was just looking for a little bit more detail within what is a very simple scene. So I can see that there are birds, but that's mainly defined by the shape of the bird rather than the detail of, oh, that's clearly a bird. So I think that's pretty much what was holding me back.
Okay, Christopher, Ian, you're a 90, so you also saw something in this.
I just thought when I saw the run through, this was the standout image. This was startling, so original, because flood is usually, again, we'll talk about nature against it. So flood is usually mud, slush. If you look at the texture of the water, it's just fairy-like. It's soft. The colours are soft. These trees are suspended. It's a beautiful piece of art. I really think that it needs to be rewarded in the next category. It needs to go up into gold.
Thank you, Christopher. Let's come back to you, Rachel, as the writer reply.
Yeah, I think that it's almost a glacial looking flood rather, which is possibly why it's not got that muddiness, but it brings to it just that beautiful simplicity and tonal balance. And it's also got that nice structural balance. And as Ian said, it is fantastic as a work of art. And yeah, I think it's worthy of gold.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. You hold your score at 92 and other judges can rescore. This image scores 88, silver with distinction. Well done to the photographer. We'll have a judge change. We're going to move to judges through reasonably quickly. We've got 7, so we'll use all of them. They've all got the expertise. So Joe, I'm going to give you a little break for a minute and let's bring in Ari Rex. Thank you, Ari. And next image, please. Context statement: an Antarctic scene captures the true essence of this harsh yet beautiful environment. Drifting icebergs at sunset and views of mountain ranges. Image scores 82 and is a silver award. Have a challenge possible.
I'll challenge that.
Thanks, Matt. Matt's on 87. Thanks, Matt. Away you go.
Yeah, I think this image so beautifully portrays the harshness of this Antarctic landscape. You've got two species of animals that are having to coexist on this rocky outcrop here. But I think what drove me from the silver into the silver distinction range was that you could see the penguin rookery on the right-hand side on that other piece of rock. And then it gives this feeling of these two penguins kind of being disconnected from their colony for whatever reason. So I felt like that just gave it that extra narrative that made the image even more interesting, but doesn't actually put that information straight in your face either.
Thank you, Matt. Rachel, 78.
Yeah, I've potentially underscored. I'm quite happy to listen. I guess the thing for me was that I didn't see anything strikingly unique to bring it up into a higher range, but I didn't notice the rookery, so I'm listening to what everyone says.
Okay, let's have a comment from Ari, who's on 83.
Yeah, so I was going to actually, would have preferred a bit more if it was a bit more cropped on the penguins and the birds. I think there is more of a story there. I agree with Matt. Yeah, the photographer had chosen a beautiful, wider crop, which portrays beautiful scene. But yeah, that's why I scored at 83. I would have come higher if it was cropped a bit closer. There's a bit more story there.
Okay, thank you, Ari. Let's come back to you, Matt.
Yeah, so I'm not in the gold, I'm just in silver with distinction. So for me, it does have a strong concept, and that is the concept of these animals that are coexisting on the rocky outcrop there. It has elevated execution. There's some fantastic detail in the birds and in the foreground elements there. I think it does have a sense of originality or emotional resonance because you have that penguin rookery that's hiding away there in the background on the right hand side. So those are what I'm looking for in silver distinction. And in terms of a crop, I think it would be an arresting image if you did crop it. However, because there is such detail there, it's almost like it's something for you to find and discover as you're viewing the landscape. And I think nature itself is about how gigantic the world is and the habitat is and how small we all are, or penguins or albatross or whatever species there are within that landscape and the power of that landscape compared to those that rely on it. So I think that's what the crop is trying to communicate as it's presented to us. Simon Silver Distinction, I hope you might be able to join me.
Thank you, Matt. You hold your score at 87 and other judges can now rescore. The judges will have a chance to take on board what they've just heard, and that will re-inform them to reassess. They may choose to keep their score the same, or they may choose to change it. Christopher Ian, thank you. We have an 84 silver award. Congratulations to the photographer. And let's have another judge change. Rachel, I'll get you to step out for a bit, and let's bring in Chris Saunders, all the way from Perth. Have you woken up yet, Chris? Good to see. Okay, let's have the next image, please. You may notice at times that the judges tend to look away from the screen if they're judging or talking to you. And that's because they might have 2 or 3 screens, enabling them to look at the image that they're judging on a much larger screen while they have the maybe another screen for the Zoom session itself. So they're not watching Gilligan's Island or the latest football game. They're actually looking at your images. They better not be watching the football. I'm sure they're not. Thank you, Christopher Ian. We have an 82 silver award. Everybody's within a point of that. So fairly unanimous opinion from the panel. Mel, can I have a quick comment from you, please?
The photographer has captured a beautiful scene here with fantastic colours complementing each other. I think the distortion that we can see over just gives us a sense of the Earth's surface to improve. Really sure, because the content is such that we can't rest our eyes anywhere, but it does give us a beautiful visual to explore. So yeah, well done.
Thank you. Next image, please. Red sprites are very rarely seen natural phenomenon associated with extremely powerful storms. They're challenging to photograph, being 10 to 40 times faster than an eye blink. This image scores 85, silver distinction. Congratulations. Everybody also sitting in that mid to high 80s. I'm going to take a comment from Matt Palmer. Will tell us a little bit about this image. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, this is a pretty incredible capture. This phenomenon only lasts a couple of milliseconds at most. So to be set up to even have the composition where this is centered within the composition, incredible luck, but also a photographer that's making their own luck as well. I think what could have helped improve the image is a little bit more focus on the technical technique of the foreground. So for example, taking perhaps a little bit of a lower angle could have lifted that tree that's central in the composition just above the trees behind it and given it more of a defined shape. but that's a pretty minimal complaint. It's an incredible capture.
Thank you, Matt. Next image, please. Fir trees in the Tuntalaps swamplands. Pailuasto, Finnish Lapland. I apologise if I've said that wrong. I'm just going to ask Chris, Joe, can you jump in, please, for Matt? Thanks, Christopher. Image scores 85, silver distinction. All judges in the mid to high 80s, so congratulations to the photographer on that one. Can I have a comment, please, from Chris Saunders? Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, this is a really well framed image, very, very deliberate in terms of using the foreground trees to frame the tree in the midground and then provide separation with the background. One area where this image I think could be improved is the snow in the midground area is lacking a bit of detail and looks a bit blown out. So if there's any way of recovering some highlights in there, I think it would lift the score a few points. But excellent image.
Thank you, Chris. Panel stay as you are now. Next image, please. Context statement: wild and stormy seas bring powerful waves to the coast. Photographed from the back of a boat. Image scores 81, silver award. Again, all the judging's fairly consistent there. Let's have a quick comment, if we can, please, from Christopher Ann.
It's a marvellous capture, but modern technology affords you that. This is not 30 years ago. We've got a set of photos probably, and you've picked the best one, but you have managed to get nature at its full force, but it's centrally cropped. It's just, that is disappointing.
Okay. Thank you, Christopher. I'm going to give you a break and we're going to bring back Rachel Smith. So thank you, Rachel. And let's have the next image, please. Context statement: our impact. The Meana-sided gums, native to Tasmania, are endangered due to overgrazing and a changing climate. They hold deep cultural and historical significance in Tasmania. Image scores 84, silver award. And unanimous feeling there, all judging around the mid-80s. Let's have a quick comment from Mel. Thanks, Mel.
The photographers managed to capture that rugged Tasmanian wilderness there, and with some beautiful atmosphere showing with the sleet and snow. I think to elevate the image, perhaps coming out a bit with the crop just to see the top of the tree would have really finished that and given us that complete picture. Otherwise, really well handled.
Thanks, Mel. I'm going to give you a little break and invite Matt Palmer back to the panel. And let's have the next image, please. This is the nature category at the Australian Photographic Prize. I hope you're enjoying it wherever you are in the world. Morning, evening, night. This image scores 79, highly commended. Judges, again, pretty consistent there, what they felt. Let's have a quick comment from Rachel on 78. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, there's some really beautiful detail in here and lovely tones with the change of season coming through. Yes, for me, I was struggling with a place for my eye to rest. I'm not too sure exactly where I'm supposed to be focusing on, if it's just about the change of season, but I just needed a little bit of a more for my eye to rest on as the main focal point.
Thanks, Mel. Let's have the next image, please. Context statement: a striking silhouette of a fallen, endangered cider gum, resembling a rearing horse shaped by the elements in the highlands of Tasmania, titled The Last Stand. This image scores 86, silver with distinction. Are we happy with that, judges? Ari wants to challenge it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Ari, you're on 91, so away you go. You'll get a right of reply.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think I am on gold, and I think this image really deserves to be right there on the gold score, because yeah, it's such a beautiful image. A feeling like the photographer has captured the raw nature in an artistic way. He has seen the horse, the wood that is like fighting for still his last fight, and yeah, it's captured so well. Subtle colors, beautifully handled in post processing. For me, I would have even given a bit more if I saw that top left tree cropped, not cropped out, so probably higher. But yeah, that's the way it is, and yeah, I encourage the other judges to see what I see.
Thank you, Ari. Rachel, 80.
Yeah, I like thank you, Ari, for pointing out that that you felt like the horse was actually fighting. That's added a bit more context for me. I guess the statement put me off a little bit, just because I prefer to find those things myself, and I hadn't. So I appreciate that. I'm happy to come up. I do really enjoy the sort of the coolness of the frost, but then the warm sunlight coming through. So.
Thanks, Rachel. Chris, you're on 86 in the middle.
Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add to the comments already made. I did really like the frost in the foreground. I think that created a sense of place for me as well, and put me in the frame with the image. The reason I'm at 86 and not higher is I think if the photographer perhaps position themselves down a bit further and to the right, then they could have perhaps retained some more of the highlights in the sky and perhaps hidden that sun a bit more behind the branch to create, to avoid those blown out sections. But it is a fantastic image, and I'm keen to hear Ari close this one out and bring me up a couple more points.
Sure. Matt, you've got something to add?
Yeah, the pareidolia is fantastic. What holds me back a little bit is just the log in front of the horse figure being a little bit out of focus in the foreground.
Thanks, Matt. Ari, back to you.
Yeah, like there's the image, like there's no perfect image out there. We can handpick any image, and I agree with Matt about the focusing, but I actually think the focus is spot on onto the subject, which is the horse in that nature. This picture takes us to the wild, the animal world as well, and I would have chosen like the same kind of focus, to leave a bit of the softness of the foreground to go right there. So yeah, sometimes it depends how you see it, but yeah, I hope this image comes higher, hopefully gold. I really
Thank you,
like.
Ari. Thank you, Ari. You can hold your score at 91, and judges, you can all rescore accordingly. This image scores 88, silver distinction. Congratulations to the photographer, and well seen. Let's have another judge change. Joe, you can take a step back, and let's bring back Christopher Ian. Next image, please. Image scores 83, silver award. Well done to the photographer. Judges are very consistent in their thoughts on this one. Let's have a comment, if we can, please, from from Ari.
Yeah, thanks. Beautifully captured image of the Milky Way, very well cropped and very well captured. It really deserves the silver with distinction. I see there is hopefully it comes a bit higher on that range, but yeah, it's a beautiful image, captured very well and handled very well.
Thank you, Ari. Chris, you had a quick comment to make.
One thing I appreciated in your endeavours here is the balance, because to the human eye, this is close to what you'd see. And often as photographers, we're super excited to throw in a lot more exposure onto our sensor to get the sky blowing out, the Milky Way blowing out, foreground blowing out. This is actually close to what you see, and I love that.
Okay, thank you. Next image, please. Context statement, photo of water lily taken at Marble Mountain, Da Nang, Vietnam. This image scores are highly commended by majority. What we mean by that is the average may have been a little higher than that, but with 3 judges below 80, it goes to a 99 as a majority rule. Let's grab a quick comment from Chris Saunders. Thanks.
Yeah, there's there's a few things that you can focus on in the image. There's I don't know if they're little aphids or Joe might be able to confirm what those things are down on that bottom petal. But the pinks and the yellows work really well together. I just think for this image it probably needed a tighter crop on the left and right hand sides to focus just on the flower, and perhaps a bit more focus stacking if that's allowed in this category, or greater depth of field so that the entire flower is in focus. But for a very pleasing color palette and lots of detail in there.
Thanks, Chris. Next image, please. Context statement: rare red sprites, huge lightning like discharges, 100 kilometers over exceptionally powerful thunderstorms lasting a fraction of an eye blink. They hover apocalyptically over the ancient Kimberley landscape. Thank you, Ari. Have you submitted your score? There you go.
Yeah.
Image scores 83, silver award. All judges pretty close to that. Let's get a quick comment, if we can, please, from Matt.
Yeah, I think what works really well in this image is that when you investigate it, you can see the lightning, and that is related directly to these red sprites. So that information content is really good. I think what would have helped improve it was just the balance of composition. And I know that's easier said than done with this kind of phenomenon, but having the sprites kind of exiting the right of the frame, it just feels a little bit unbalanced.
Okay, Ari, you had a comment to add?
Yes, it's a beautiful image and very well captured for the sprites. But since we have visibility of a big part of the foreground, and it would have uplifted a bit more the image if the focus was at the right spot where you can include the foreground as well. I suggest the photographer probably to look at hyperfocal distance, where you could have had a really proper inclusion of the focus in foreground with also the background sprites well acceptably in focus. That would have uplifted quite a bit this image.
Thank you, Ari. That's a great comment about the hyperfocal distance, something for people to look into. Let's have another judge change. Christopher Ian, I'm going to get you to take a quick break. And let's bring Joe Howell back, please. Thanks, Joe. Next image. This is the nature category at the 2025 Australian Photographic Prize. But you all knew that, didn't you? Because that's how you got here. And we have an 83 silver award. All judges in that sort of mid to low 80s. Let's have a quick comment, if we can, please, from Rachel Smith, all the way from New Zealand.
It's beautifully captured. To elevate the image, I think for me, I'm getting a bit of lack of clarity along some of the peaks. And I'm also struggling with the warmth of the reflection of that main peak is sort of not fitting as well with the rest of the tones through the sky. Yeah, so that's sort of what held me back.
Thanks, Rachel. Next image, please. context statement. The water source that feeds the Asagol Lake in Denizli demonstrates the creativity of nature by creating tree-like branches with rich earth tones. Denali it should be, my apologies. This image scores 83 and is a silver award. Congratulations to the photographer. We have a challenge from Chris Saunders, who's on 91. And Chris, your range is down to 78. Off you go.
Okay, so a bit of a spread, so some work to do. Yeah, so I'm up on 91, and the reason I put this image up there is I think one of the strengths of this image is it's not, although it's obvious that you're looking at an aerial, there is an element of play with scale here as well, and this could quite easily be a macro or sort of micro sort of shot of something going on at a much smaller scale. So I think that's quite a clever piece in itself. It's been technically very well executed. If you zoom in and have a look at all the details, that there's the mid-tone contrast control through all those rivulets is exceptional, and you can see the tiniest of threads and strands all the way up and down that coastline. It's been very, very well managed in post-production, and I think the color palette has been very well constrained and managed sympatheticly with what's going on there. So I know I've seen a bit more in it, perhaps than the rest of you, but I'm keen to understand what's holding you back and see if I can address some of those comments.
Thanks, Chris. Matt, 78.
Yeah, this could be a little bit contradictory. So I actually held back because of what I saw as a lack of detail in some areas as well. So, for example, there's a few contextual hints in there about subject that could have lifted it higher for me, at least personally. There are what appears to be birds around the water and flying above the water in some of the strands, but the detail isn't resolved to the extent where I can actually confirm that, rather than just reading into some marks on the image. And I'm not blaming the photographer for that. They possibly are limited by their technology, but I have to judge the image. And there's also a bit of mottling of colors, particularly in the magentas above the river system and the bluish areas. So I just felt like the technical detail wasn't quite at that level, but I'm appreciating the composition and the subject matter.
Thanks, Matt. Joe, you're in the middle. What have you got to add? You're on.
Found it. Hi. Yeah, I scored this as a silver, and I can agree with, I think, a lot of the comments that Matt make were holding me back. Really appreciate the beautiful colors. There's great tones running through there, but when I look in close, there's some just I'm not seeing the detail that that others are seeing, so that Chris is seeing, and I scored it as such. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Back to you, Chris.
Okay, tough audience this morning. So look, I completely understand where everyone's coming from. I think I think this is those issues with the photo. I don't consider them personally as an issue, due to the altitude at which this image was shot at, and essentially, if you look in there, everything is tack sharp. I see all those little, essentially what could be birds, but and there isn't detail there, but the detail is just because of the altitude that this was shot at, which means it just wouldn't translate in this image. So look, it'd be great if we could get this up into I know I'm up in gold, and there's a big gap between where some of you are and where I am, but if we could get this into a silver distinction, I think this would be well worthy of that.
Thanks, Chris. Let's you hold your score at 91. Everyone else can rescore after processing the words from your fellow judges. This image scores 84, silver award. For those watching, they may notice, they may do their maths and see an average of 85, but with 4 judges or 3 judges below 85, it goes to a majority 84. So well done. Thank you, judges. Let's have a judge change. Matt, you can take a break, and Melanie, you come back in, please. Thanks, Mel. Next image, please. Context statement, a gerbera with head bowed low at the end of its glory days, yet still showing its beauty and colour. Image scores 80, silver award. Well done to the photographer. Congratulations. Let's grab a quick comment, if we can, please, from Rachel.
Photographer's done a really good job of highlighting the beauty in what is quite a banal everyday subject for us, and also that death doesn't necessarily mean that the beauty is gone. For me, I think there's a few distractions in the brightness of some of the greens in the background, especially the sort of center lower green spot, and it's just dragging my eye away from all that delicate beauty and detail in the petals and the base of the flower head there.
Thanks, Rachel. Let's have another judge change. Ari, you can take a little break, and let's bring back Christopher Ian. Thanks, Christopher. And next image, please. Thanks, Rachel. Image scores 86, silver distinction, with a probable challenge coming from the Smiley Joe, Hal. Joe, you are 93. Let's see what you have to say.
Hi. So this image, as soon as it turns around, I think it's got such a beautiful movement and flow through the image, as well as keeping detail in all those in the whites, in the darks. That little crow at the front who you're led to through that beautiful sort of S curve that follows the landscape is just, it's really lovely. And then your eye is drawn back up to the lightest parts, and that just the detail in that little glacial blues. I think it's a really strong image that just gives you a real sense of the bird's environment. And it's just, I think it deserves to go up a little bit higher, just as a fabulous storytelling image showing what nature is and harsh environments and the animals that exist there. And I'd really like to hear some from other people as to why you're not in that area. Come on, let's do it.
Okay, let's listen to Mel, who's on 81.
Thank you. And Joe, I'm happy to hear some more convincing as we go through this. I think the bird was beautifully camouflaged. So it's actually it looks like part of the scene, and then you realize that the bird's there, and it's not actually part of that flow. So I really enjoy that. I felt like there was too much of a contrast between the sky and the snow, and I feel like the sky might be just darker than perhaps would naturally be there for snow because it's so bright. I also didn't see as much texture in that snow to the right as I'd have hoped, I guess. But I have enjoyed that flow through to that beautiful color of the ice there on the glacier. So, yeah, I'm happy to listen.
I apologies to the photographer. I have a context statement that I didn't read, but I think you guys can see it. It's up there. But I'll just read it out. This little bird followed me as I visited a variety of ice caves in Iceland. He was very curious and hopeful of feed, I'm sure. Rachel, you've got something to add?
Yeah, I am happy to come up and join you, Joe. I'm at 87 in silver distinction. Just wanted to add that I'm really enjoying the way that the colours in the crow are complementing and mirrored in the colours of the landscape. So it's actually there's some real subtle blues and purples in those feathers and the detail there, which are just mirrored through that landscape and through that journey.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel. Back to you, Joe. Let's see what bring it home.
When you're out and about and you've got a threatening snowstorm, the sky is dark. It is grey. It's like it's full of moisture that's about to come down. I'm seeing detail all the way through those whites. And I guess off to the right-hand side, when there isn't as much detail in there, it just makes me think that there's been wind coming through and it's smoothed out that area, as you can see with the sort of exposed iciness on some of the areas of snow that is the landscape that is sticking out. It's because there's wind that's keeping everything that sticks up and would make texture sort of bare. Thank you, Rachel, for pointing out the color harmony between that crow and its background. I just think this is a really lovely composition, and that quirky little crow just so adds so much to this story, and I really think that this photographer deserves to be awarded for it. So I'd love to see you come up into the gold with me. Thank you.
Okay, you hold your score. Thanks, Joe, and other judges can rescore according to what they've heard. And again, for the benefit of the audience, judges don't have to change their score. They can choose to. That's just another chance to reassess. But in this case, the judges have all decided that this is worthy of a gold. Congratulations. A gold award at 90. Well done to the photographer. Good judging. Thanks, judges. Let's have another judge change. Rachel, you can have a little break. And let's bring back Matt. And let's have the next image, please. This image scores an average of 80, but is a 79 on the majority rule. Highly commended, well done. Everybody's sort of fairly close to that score. Let's have a quick comment, if we can, please, from Matt Palmer.
Yeah, so the photographers captured a beautiful atmosphere, and that break in the clouds leads us onto the island in the distance. I think what would have helped improve the image into a higher scoring range is just the detail in all of those foreground elements, the trees and the banks of the lake or river there. And also perhaps looking at whether you've done some editing in the sky and if that's darkened the top of the foliage at the top of the frame as well.
Yeah, great comments. Thanks, Matt. Well observed, as always. Next image, please. Context statement. As the sun fell near Sprightly Island, the layered clouds briefly parted to reveal the Antarctic mountain peaks. This image scores an 88, silver with distinction, but I have a feeling it may not stay there. Joe Hal, 96, you can challenge this. You do have someone else in the 90s at 91. So off you go, Joe.
This image, when it turns around, you just go, wow, it's so deliciously creamy. The detail that you're seeing through there is it's soft. The lighting gives you a real sense of depth, like right from the detail down in the bottom left-hand corner all the way through to the clouds that are in the far right. I just feel like you can dive into this, and even though it'd be cold, it feels like a warm hug of an environment. And I think it's supremely well handled with all the different tones. And I really just think this is an incredibly strong image, and we should award it as such.
Okay, Matt, you're on 78.
Yeah, I wanted to go there as well. It's a spectacular scene. What I felt like is the whites are being used to direct us into an area where there is really interesting ice formation in the center, but then you've got a darker cloud that's just sitting above that area of white, and that's kind of a little bit distracting, I feel. And maybe if they had have waited just for that little dark part of the cloud to pass, that could have helped improve it. And there's also another little kind of speck of dark cloud or something above the peak on the far right as well. So I just felt like for such a simplistic image, getting those little things right would have been the things that lifted it for me.
Thanks, Matt. Mel, you're on 91.
Yeah, I'm up there with Joe. I think I don't know. We've come in on this. The clouds have opened up, and there's such sharpness and detail on these mountains. But that snow, I don't know how nature does it. It creates this velvety kind of, I don't know, drift, I guess, of snow that just shows how delicate nature is. And I think we've really seen that in this image. There's excellent tonal range. Sure, there's a little speck of darker stuff above that right peak, Matt, but there's nature, and capturing atmospheric conditions was something that a photographer once told me about 20 years ago, and I think this has done it so well.
Thanks, Matt. I might just grab a quick comment from Chris Saunders, if I can, please. Chris, you're in the middle 80s.
Yeah, I was, and I look. I think, to put it briefly, I've underscored this, and I will be coming up into gold range. What I had missed was in the bottom left-hand corner and on the left-hand side. The detail that's coming through that breaking cloud. And I've scanned all over this image, and it's sharp throughout. Even seeing wisps in the fog and the cloud and things like that. So yeah, I will be coming up to gold.
Okay, back to you. Thanks, Joe.
Wonderful. I'm not hearing anything that should detract from this image at all. With those darkest sections that are in the clouds, I feel that adds to the depth that's provided. It gives you a hint as to what could lie behind the peaks that we're seeing in focus. So is that dark section above the little glacial element in the center, is that peeking through of another mountain behind? I don't see it as an issue. I just think it really adds to the depth that's provided in this image and the beautiful detail and the feel and the light, and it's spectacularly handled. So I hope you guys can come up and join me. And yeah, looking forward to seeing your scores.
Thank you, Joe. You hold your score at 96. Everyone else take on board what you've heard and rescore as you see fit, if you choose to. This image scores 90 and is a gold award. Well done. And well done, everybody. Let's have another judge change. Chris Saunders, you can step back. Ari, let's have you come back onto the panel. Thanks. And we'll have the next image, please. Context statement: transpiration as the sun warms the leaf canopy. The excess water and oxygen are released into the atmosphere to benefit all life on our planet. This image scores a silver with distinction. All judges in the mid to high 80s. Everybody fairly consistent there. Matt, can we have a quick comment from you, please?
I think photographers captured the beauty of this process really well. The wispiness that's coming off the tree, it just creates so much atmosphere with the lighting as well. I think what could have lifted it higher is just maybe if there was a little bit more detail in the tree, and perhaps if the photograph itself was more kind of cropped in on that tree, perhaps, rather than including such a large scene, just because there isn't quite as many contributing elements in the rest of the image.
Thanks, Matt. I might just add that some of the blacks are just a little heavy in the shadows, a little bit too. Just handle them a little bit more finesse to match the ambience of the scene, which is a beautiful scene. Let's have the next image, please. Context statement: a hidden waterfall cascades down the cliff as it catches the light in Milford Sound. Just again, for the benefit of the audience, while the judges are assessing, some of you may have an artist statement that wasn't read out, just to reassure you that the judges all get to see an artist statement on their panel. So if it doesn't get read out, we apologise, but the judges are seeing it as part of their assessment anyway. Image scores 81, silver award. Consistent judging there. Let's have a quick comment from Christopher Ian on 82. Thanks, Christopher.
Oh, very brave, actually. Waterfalls, we don't associate them with low-key lighting, and you've done it really, really well. And the way that you've zoned in different areas of light is beautiful. Well seen.
Thanks, Christopher. And I didn't think it was brave at all to ask you to speak, because I'm very confident that you know what to say. Let's have the next image, please. Context statement: naturally formed majestic granite peaks of the Cuanos del Pane, the horns of Pane, Chilean Patagonia. Image scores 79, highly commended. An average of 80, but 3 judges below the 80, so we end up with that. Ari, you have an 88. Would you like to challenge that?
Yes, sure. I yeah, I really like this image. The way it's presented, captured, and yeah, the color palette is excellent. Um, the subject matter is fantastic. I yeah, I think it deserves to come to silver with distinction. Uh, so I encourage the other judges to come up a bit.
Okay, let's have a comment from Matt Palmer, please.
Yeah, I scored it in highly commended due to the drama of the scene. There's some lovely detail in there as well. What held me back was the cropping on the peak on the left-hand side. I just felt like either include the top of that peak and keep it within the frame or crop it more aggressively so it feels less like it's right on the edge. I believe that the photographer may have wanted to capture this central peak along with the shadow that it's casting onto that side peak, and I feel like you could achieve that either way with that.
Thank you, Matt. Let's have a quick comment from Mel, who's on 81.
Yeah, I concur with what Matt said. And I just think the photographer could really elevate the sense of drama by really exploring the shadows and highlights and bringing that out a little more as well.
Thanks, Mel. Let's go back to you, Ari.
Yes, the cropping of the left side, I actually thought of that, Matt. It could have been cropped in, so we could see the top, but actually it could that will give you it will push a bit the subject matter a bit further out if you do that. I actually think the crop works well. And yeah, I just love the feeling of this image. It's so beautiful, beautifully captured.
Thank you, Ari.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you finished, Ari?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, yeah, I hope the judges can come up to the silver with distinction. I think it really deserves it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ari. You hold your score at 88. And if the other judges would like to take on board the comments and rescore, thank you. This image scores 79, highly commended. And some great comments there to help the photographer. Let's have the next image, please. Context statement. A flock of flamingos wade through the shallow waters of Lake Magadi, Kenya, leaving trails of footprints in the mud. This image scores an 84 by majority and is a silver award.
Yeah, I'll challenge.
Thank you, Matt. Matt on 92 and going down to 80.
Yeah, I think the thing that is immediately striking is this interesting color palette where you've got this rusty brown color juxtaposed with the beautiful deep blues and then into greens. I think the color palette is really quite unique and beautiful. What I think when you zoom in on all the details, there's just so many birds, flamingos that have been captured well here. And there's so many different kind of, I guess you're attributing a personality, but I'll say personalities of the birds. They're all moving together as a flock, but then you have certain birds that are kind of like jumping up and waving their wings out. And then there's some birds that are kicking and walking differently and all sorts of quirky things. And I think the addition of the trails, that those streaks of blue that run through the mud behind them, just lift it even further. It gives you such a sense of direction. The image is surging towards the left into that rust color. So I think as an abstract piece of artwork, it's pretty stunning. And then as a image that describes something that's happening in nature, it's very strong as well.
Thank you, Matt. Let's go to Ari on 80.
Yeah, I see a lot of great things about this image, as Matt said earlier. I also see like a face, a whole face with all the birds creating like a face going towards left-hand side. It's beautiful, beautiful image. And yeah, thanks, Matt, for bringing those thoughts. I The only thing that let me down is just a little bit of detailing on the birds. As an abstract picture is fantastic. I'll definitely come a bit higher.
Thank you, Ari. Christopher Ian on 86.
Well, the caption here has really done you a huge favour. The trails are the hero here. If you look at the trails, they're little like streaks of fireworks that have got little pulses along them where the birds stop to hunt and to look at what's in the water. It's a brilliantly sharp image, very entertaining.
Thank you, Christopher. Let's go back to Matt.
Well, it's a little bit tricky when you're challenging and no one says anything bad about the image because you don't really know where to go with it. So I'll just reiterate. So you've seen faces in the image, you've seen fireworks, there's energy, there's a beautiful color palette, there's information about nature, there's excellence in the concept craft and impact. It is confidently original, particularly that color palette and how it's been presented to us. It's almost like what we would see in an aerial category, but so perfectly describing nature as well. So I just implore you to raise your scores as high as you can.
Thank you, Matt. You hold your score at 92. Judges, please take on board the things you've heard and reassess. This image is an 87, silver with distinction. Well done. And congratulations to the photographer. Let's have a little break for Matt. Thanks, Matt. Nothing to do with that great challenge. And let's bring back Chris Saunders. Thanks. And we might actually also give Christopher Ian a break and bring back Rachel Smith, just to make sure you all end up doing roughly the same number of images. Wouldn't want anyone to feel like they're being left out. Next image, please. This image scores an 81 and is a silver award. Congratulations to the photographer. All judges are very close together in their scoring range, and I'm going to go to Chris Saunders to give us a comment on this image. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I really like the flatness in the image brought by the sort of the atmosphere and fog or cloud in the background, and the green and golds work really well together as well as a color palette. For this image to score higher, I think it really needs somewhere for your eye to rest and a focal point, whether it's waiting for a point in time when a bird lands at the right point in the frame or something like that to give us something to focus on.
Thanks, Chris. Let's have the next image, please. Context statement. Large glacial carvings create icebergs that drift in the currents around Antarctica. As the mass changes, the iceberg constantly rolls, revealing this ever-changing sculpture. This image scores 84 and is a silver award. Everybody's reasonably close. I'm going to call a panel or a mentor challenge because I'd like us to have a chat about this one. That doesn't mean anything other than the fact that we're going to hear some comments from more than one judge, drawing attention to the use of scale and the techniques involved in getting an image such as this and what it tells us about nature. Can I, so basically means everyone's going to have a chance to chat if they'd like to chat. And it also means that you will all have the chance to rescore if you choose to change your score or keep it to yourself, keep it as it was. That's entirely up to you. I'm going to ask for volunteers. If not, I'll go for you. I'll just nominate you, but let's start with Chris. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I put this in the silver distinction category at 87. The simple color palette, the blues and the cyans and the grays work really well together, and giving us that glimpse, that glimpse under the water, and the adage that an iceberg is, you only ever see the tip of the iceberg. I think is we're getting to see that in reality here. So there's some very good use of light on the elements underwater, and I think actually you can see more sculpting on the underwater section than the top section, which I quite liked as well. The things that kept me from going to gold were there's some noise in the image, which I think could be improved on, and there's a couple of dust spots or sensor spots or something right in the center of that image on the iceberg just above the water line, which I believe in this category could have been corrected. So yeah, lovely colors, great tonal control, great use of light to show this sculpted piece of ice, but just a few technical things keeping me back from gold.
Thanks, Chris. Rachel.
Yeah, I scored this 83. I'm happy to raise my score. The things that held me back are the same points that Chris made. So the only thing I really have to add is that for me, the initial impact was that this is the heart of the Antarctic, and it's not just necessarily what we see above the waterline. So I think that's been very beautifully done.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's just have a quick comment, if we can, from Joe as well.
Hi, Tony and team, and those watching at home. I just really, when this turns around, it's got immediate impact. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to do a split screen above water, below water sort of image like this. It's incredibly hard to get that water line smack bang in the middle of your frame, and to balance your exposure from both above and below the water. And I think it's been done really well. One of the things that sort of, I scored it in the silver range. One of the things that held me back is I'm a sucker for a straight horizon line. These are usually done with quite wide angle lenses, and I feel like we've got a little bit of warping with that, but it feels like it's dipping slightly to the left, if that makes sense. But as I look at this more, I suffer quite badly from seasickness, and this is making me feel a little queasy. So if your aim was to give a sense of bobbing around in an ocean, then I guess that you could argue that the slightly off horizon line is actually is adding to the sort of the making you feel as if you're in this environment. So yeah, it's a really enjoyable image, and I think that there's the same sort of things that have been mentioned. Those little sensor spots, especially when they're smack bang in the middle of the image, are really holding this image back. So, but well done to the photographer. It's a really beautiful image, and with a little bit finessing could be lifted even further.
Thank you, Jo. Given nobody else puts their hand up, let's just have a chance to rescore. Again, judges have the opportunity to leave their score exactly where it was, or they can change as they see appropriate. It was just good to have a conversation about an image that's slightly different. Image scores 85, silver with distinction. So there was a slight shift in the thinking of the panel. Well done to the judges, and congratulations to the photographer. It's a particularly interesting picture. Let's have a quick judge change. Joe, thanks. You can take another break. I know I'm moving you around quickly. I'm just looking at how many have all judged. Christopher, Ian, you can come back in. And let's have the next image, please. Context statement: dried salt lakes in the wheat belt of Western Australia. Minerals and algae change the colour of the lakes after they fill with rain. This image scores 82, silver award. Congratulations to the photographer. Consistent judging there. Let's have a quick comment from Rachel. Thanks, Rachel.
It's a really enjoyable palette and beautiful vibrancy of color. I guess to elevate it, I'm not really finding any one focal point rather than a series of really interesting detail. And so I'm kind of struggling with where to land. I do really enjoy the orange tones leading through the ponds from the bottom left corner up and around into the kidney shape at the top right. It's really nice.
Thanks, Rachel. Ari, you had a quick comment to add?
Yes, Tony, I agree with Rachel about the beautiful things of the image. I would have only added just a little bit of a capturing technique part. I feel the image is the image is a bit soft on corners, especially on the right top of the image. It would have improved a lot if if you close up down just a tiny bit that aperture. It would improve the overall image. Don't be afraid to raise that ISO to get the right shutter speed for capturing a better overall image. Yeah.
Thank you, Ari. Next image, please. Image scores a silver award at 82. Consistent judging once again. Let's have a quick comment, if we can, please, from Chris Saunders.
Yeah, really enjoyed the softness, and you can sort of almost feel the heaviness in the atmosphere in here, and all the sensory overload that you'd get from sort of the smells and the dampness. So I think that's been well captured. To push this image higher, I would like to see a bit more context and perhaps a wider view, and showing a bit more of the environment. But yeah, beautifully captured and works well as an image.
Thank you, Chris. Another judge change. Ari, you can step back. Melanie, you step back. And we will have Joe and Matt rejoin the panel. Thanks. And next image, please. Context statement: when chasing Aurora australis becomes storm chasing. This old man reaching for his walking cane appeared in the sky over Bass Strait. This image scores 79, highly commended. Averaged 80, but 3 judges below 80 gives us a majority rule, 79. We do have the opportunity for a challenge there from Rachel. Are you happy with that, Rachel?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
So you're going to challenge it, or you would like to leave it?
I'll challenge it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's have a challenge. Thank you. Okay, off you go.
So I think that the photographer has captured a very beautiful moment with that, and I like the context of the old man, the walking stick. I guess I would have actually scored this much higher if there wasn't quite as much negative space on the left-hand side. But I think that the palette and the subject are both, really nice.
Thanks, Rachel. Let's hear from Matt Palmer on 77.
Yeah, I think probably the same reasons held me back, but a little lower down. So I feel like this image is all about the power of that lightning, and making the crop all about the power of that lightning as well would just amplify the strength of it. If it had have shown us a little bit more about how that lightning lights the landscape, or if there had been a little bit more ambience through a longer exposure, or through even a light painting or whatever technique you like, that would have helped give us more context of the landscape. But I think the lightning in itself and the ocean is quite beautiful.
Thanks, Matt. Chris, you're on 83.
I just love panoramas where basically the element is just a minor element. So a tornado on the edge of a frame or something, because it gives you the feeling that it's just happened. I know you can recrop later, but I just love the idea this is so tiny in the landscape for such a powerful element, and it's reflected up in the clouds. Beautiful colour.
Thank you, Chris. Christopher, let's go back to you, Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that as a minimalist piece, this works quite well. So leaving that black on the left-hand side and keeping the original crop is potentially quite intentional to give that feeling of the storm and the mood and the environment. And I think technically I'm not finding very many flaws, so that's why I put it into the high silver range. People can have a look and maybe come up a bit more.
Thanks, Rachel. You hold your score at 84, and judges, the rest of you can have a rethink and rescore if you choose to. Image now scores an 81 as the silver award. Congratulations. Yes, let's now have another image, please. Context statement. Driving through the high country, I just had to stop when seeing the light stream through the fog and tree with kangaroos in the distance. This image scores 85, all judges in the 80s. So everybody likes it. I'm going to call it a challenge on this. There's so much going on here. I'd like you guys to talk about this a bit And if we end up where we are, that's great. And if it changes, that's good as well. So let's just see where we go. I do want you to have a chat and look into this image in terms of its relevance. And not so much relevance. Yeah, I'm not going to say anymore. I'm trying not to give my thoughts away, but at the same time, I'd like you guys to have a think. So let's start off with Matt Palmer. You're on 87. Everyone's going to have a chance to speak if they choose, and everyone will have a chance to rescore if they choose. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, I was on 87. To me, it captures all of the best reasons to be up early in the morning. I've seen elements of this so many times, but put together, it's a beautifully atmospheric piece. Yeah, and it invokes peace as well. I suspect the kangaroos are probably scattering as they do when they notice anyone's popped out of a car. Unfortunately, I've seen that many times as well when I would have rather they ignored me, but I think in this instance, they are traveling towards the light and actually leads us to the tree. And the kind of barcode-like shadows that these trees leave when they get that directional morning light is quite stunning as well. And it also leads us to that little bit of foggy area sitting on the left-hand side on the ground. So I think all of those elements work really beautifully together. I think what probably held me back from a gold was particularly the kind of muddied left-hand area. And when I say muddied, it probably was muddy ground. So that is probably quite authentic to what that ground felt like. But visually, that darkness in the bottom left, I don't think it's supporting the image as strongly as it could.
Okay, let's go to Rachel, 82.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything Matt said. I actually love the phrase he used about a reason to get up early in the morning. I think that's really beautiful. I am really enjoying the glistening dew in the trees in the background, and the sort of sense that the kangaroos are moving towards the safety of that forest rather than being out in the open. I don't really have any negatives to say.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Chris, you've got something to say.
Yeah, there's I'm really liking that there's a whole bunch of triangles in this image as well, I think, which is quite clever. So there's the triangle obviously between the tree and the shadows that it's making. And the base of that triangle is the slope on the ground, and then below that, and I think perhaps, Matt, this might address some of your concerns around that shadow in the bottom left-hand corner. I think those two shadow areas in the bottom left and bottom right create this triangle of light on the ground as well, which is a mirror image of the triangle above. And then just to the top left of the tree, you've got a triangular shadow area as well. So there's some really, and then that encourages you to explore what's going on in the background there. And there's lots of detail in there. You can see all the dew on the grass glistening. I was at 86, and I think I could be encouraged to come up higher.
Christopher, Ian, you were on 80, so you were sort of at the lower range. What were your thoughts?
Well, this is my fear because I've got to work against my own bias. This could be the view from my kitchen. So, and so kangaroos, tree, pasture and ice, yes, this is what I see. The one thing I've got to reward the photographer for is this whole Ansel Adams thing of waiting till the light hits your subject rather than in post affecting that. I just think it's almost religious the way the kangaroos have this reverence towards the tree and they're in the light, in the glow. I'm going up.
Thanks, Christopher. Joe, you're on 86, so you liked it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this image. Your eye has so much area to wander around, so much detail, so many little things that the more you look at it, the more you see, such as those little twinkles of the light in the trees in the background behind the fog. And I love where those the shadows coming from the tree, how they're really beautifully placed within the frame. Unfortunately, the thing that held me back with this is what Matt had mentioned, like those angles draw you straight down and point to that very dark section in the bottom left-hand corner, which just it just is a little bit too heavy for the magic that is the rest of the light in the frame. But yeah, I really enjoy it. There's so much going on in here, and those beautiful little kangaroos. It's just a lovely detail, and that the light and the color as it plays across the ground in the foreground is almost painterly, and it's really quite spectacular.
Thanks, Joe. Good to dissect an image for the audience as well. You guys have, as I said, I called it as a challenge, so that gave everyone a chance to comment on the image. So that means you can choose to score, you rescore, either keeping your score as is or adjusting accordingly. Up to you. Image scores 87, silver distinction. And let's have another judge change. Christopher, Ian, and Joe, you guys can step back. And let's have Ari and Mel come back on. And have the next image, please. This image scores 86, silver with distinction.
I'll challenge.
And we have a challenge from Matt on 92. Everyone else is in that mid 80 with a 181 there. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, so I think both as a nature and as a aerial image, this is quite stunning. From the cool color palette on the right that almost feels glacial, but isn't, but the colors are beautifully glacial. Through to the left where you've got these almost like a palette of color from a painter. These just little pops of color, and they're not overdone. They just feel authentically there. And I was kind of looking for like some understanding of the landscape and why it is the way that it is. And perhaps it is because a larger body of water is on the right. And this image is actually perhaps documenting what happens when that water recedes and leaves pools of color and the algae within them to create their magic in their color. So I just thought this was both stunning as an abstract art piece, but also potentially a documentation of a natural occurring event around these salt lakes.
Thanks, Matt. Ari, you're an 81, so you're a bit lower.
Yeah, I totally agree with Matt for the way the abstract and the way the image is presented. Beautiful colors and subject matter. Yeah, the only thing like that let me down is a bit of softness on the corners. It's similar to the previous image, like if the corners were a bit sharper, in the middle we see the sharpness, which I really like, the subject matter. So yeah, it's when I get close that it lets me just a bit down. But yeah, thanks Rob for the other points, and that helped me to come up.
Yeah. Thank you, Ari. Chris Saunders.
Yeah, I scored this at 85, so I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. And I saw everything you saw, Matt, in terms of those sort of primary pops of color. They're almost like ink-like dots, that you can imagine an artist using. I guess the reason I'm not upping gold is I felt the crop was a bit unresolved, and I didn't feel the frame was quite balanced. And I don't know if that's resolved through a tighter crop or a rotation and a changing crop or something like that. But I just felt I needed a bit more space at the top of the image. and a bit more balance overall to the way it's been framed.
Thanks, Chris. No one else wishes to speak? If so, then we'll go back to you, Matt. Thanks, Matt.
Well, just to address some of the concerns. So I think about the corner sharpness, particularly about the top right-hand corner, I think you're very correct there, Ari. However, I think all the detail is where it needs to be. So I don't think the photographer's intending us really to look at the corners. The corners are quite empty of this image. They're really drawing us into the center, and that's where all the detail is as well. So I don't feel like that's hurting the image all that much. And I feel that that's also an aspect of the technology that's probably been used to capture this as well. And perhaps the photographers compensated for that by using their composition to ensure that wouldn't be a major factor. In terms of the crop, I actually think the panoramic crop for me works really well. It creates a little bit of tension at the edge of the frame, and I do think having elements like that orange dot at the top of the frame, it's almost like a bit of a visual challenge in a way. So I think that use of crop and the tightness of it, and that maybe you feel like there could be more space, it almost gives it more of a sense of movement and a little bit more drama, whereas perhaps if there was more space, it might have felt a little bit more static and analytical. So that's just a viewpoint to perhaps consider and see what you can all do.
Thank you, Matt. You hold your score at 92. Judges, take on board what you've heard and rescore accordingly. Thank you. Image scores 88, silver with distinction. Great comments. Well done, judges. That was awesome. And that is our last image. Congratulations to the photographer of that image. Wish I'd taken it. That means it's time to hand back to Robin Campbell, the Supremo Primo. Over to you, Rob.
Thanks, Tony. You're an absolute legend yourself. Really, really appreciate all your wisdom, particularly in that category, and loving those panel challenges. It's really, really great when you see something and you're able to just allow that little bit of extra time to allow the judges to look into that extra level in the image. So that was an absolute delight. Thank you. That brings us to a close of the online nature photography category for 2025. A heartfelt thank you to our judges. The images were amazing and your critique was really insightful. So our entrants really appreciate your time and your energy and your expertise. Thank you so much. To the photographers who have entered, thank you for submitting your work. There was certainly lots to talk about, lots of stunning images. If your image wasn't in the top 30 this time, don't give up. Take the feedback, keep creating, and come back stronger next year. To our software guru and director, Daniel, director of judging, Chris, and behind our scenes crew, Nathan and Helen, thank you for keeping things running smoothly. And of course, our valued sponsors, Nikon, ASO, KL, Godox, Ilford Photography Studies College, and Print Shop. Thank you for empowering this community to create beautiful imagery. Thank you again to our online audience for tuning in and celebrating with us. Join us this Sunday, the 20th of July. That's next Sunday, 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, for the announcement of all of the winners. We'll be back today at 12 noon for the judging of the phone category. So hopefully we will see you then.
Wow, photographing the way I do, but with my colors, this will change everything.
I got to see each frame, each position of its wing, and they're so beautiful that I have never seen before.
Being able to move quickly and working at my brain's pace and getting those shots in the moment. Having this camera allows you to go out and create the way you want to create.
Until you use it, you cannot even imagine what you have missed.
something I've never seen before in my entire life. It's something totally different.
Nikon Z6 III. Outperform.
Introducing ISO Color Edge. Precision is essential for any professional working with images. Whether you're an artist, a retoucher, or a visual effects specialist, you need to know that what you see at the start of a project is precisely what you'll get at the end. Color Edge monitors give consistent, reliable accuracy that guarantee no surprises within your color workflow. So what you see in real life is what you see on screen, and what you see on screen is what you see in real life. That's precisely why professionals all over the world trust ISO Color Edge for their image creation. ISO Color Edge. Discover living, breathing color.